Hello, I'm Bree. I am the history half of Pontifex, and this is part 4 of our AMA leading up to our anniversary special. So, first question to start this one was from Maria del Rosario Otati, who asked, now that you've done a good number of popes, are there any ranking criteria you wish you could add or remove? And I thought about this, and I don't really think that there are any criterias I would remove, for sure. And it would be quite difficult to add one because when we pick the categories and we were going through it, we had to figure out what was going to incorporate the greatest amount of the papacy. Obviously, the category right now, where we are in the history of the papacy, scandal is lacking, right? So fructus prohibitum is not going to be our strongest category with the earlier popes, but over time that's going to become a very, very important category. It's also a category that is the trickiest because at some point when we get closer to the 20th century, it's going to get kind of yucky feeling to be awarding popes for scandal and, when things are very, very fresh and raw and in some cases really, really awful, with the Second World War, and then we have the current sexual abuse crisis of today. It's going to be a tough one, and we're still actually debating how we're going to do that. We're kind of trying to enforce that away from that idea of awarding points because scandal is what makes a pope notable, but it's not necessarily things that we are celebrating. So that's the trickiest and most controversial one in terms of removing, but I wouldn't get rid of it. I wouldn't get rid of any of them. Very happy with the categories that we have, even when they're challenging sometimes. So I think I wouldn't get rid of any. Would I add any? It would be hard to find one that we could get across the board. But David backed you up on that. David from the Siècle podcast, and he asked if you did have to add a new category on which popes that you would, for the popes and how you would rate them, what would it be? And so if I had to add one, I'd probably go with like a badass factor because there are some popes who are going to be supremely badass. Obviously, we've already had Pope Leo doing his thing. We've had Pope Martin doing his thing. We're not even close to Julius II yet. So there's definitely going to be other like popes that would fit into that category, but we'd have a lot of zeros too. So it would be difficult. The second question is also from David, and he said, are there any sources you have now that would have significantly changed how you approached an earlier episode when you didn't have that source? No, because we've been very lucky so far. We have had sources pop up that are significantly more informative as we go, or that have slightly changed a perspective or slightly changed how I would explain something. But they've always so far popped up before the episode is either recorded or released. So I've had time to kind of update as those new sources comes in, and so none of the episodes that stand as they are have I had a source where it would change something that we've already said. We've gotten very lucky with that. Even when that whole Clement's relics being found in the trash thing came out, that was literally the week we were recording and releasing that episode. So it was perfect timing. We've been very, very lucky in that regard. Now, are there sources that might have exist that could change things for us? Totally. We already know that, like, Hedrosippus, who has been entirely lost to history, probably would have made our earlier episodes more informative or more rich in detail, and that would have been great because that could have changed some things, but because it's been lost to history, we don't know for sure just how much, which sucks. Ethan Johnson asked, why do you think that all of the Pope portraits haven't been available in the same quality through the whole process? And are there images that you know you're lacking that you would like to see? Yeah. So, why they haven't been available in the same quality, even though we're getting them from the same place, is just that nobody has really gone to the effort to go through taking really, really good, high quality images from St. Paul's outside the walls in Rome. They're very high up, so it would be difficult to do so at the best of times, and they're really hard to find online. You can sometimes find really great qualities of like one or two, but that's really all you get, and that sucks because they're great. I know that on my next trip to Rome, I'm going to spend some time trying to figure out how I can take some really great pictures of those, even though they're super high up. It's the same thing like in the Sistine Chapel. There's some great images on the sides of all the different early popes, and it's impossible to try and capture with your camera, especially in there because they don't really want you taking pictures. And yeah, but you know, one day we'll figure that out. In terms of images I would like to see that we're lacking, so many, because we know that so many tombs got destroyed. So we know there were images and mosaics, especially getting into the 6th and 7th century, where the tombs had these beautiful mosaics, and I'm going to cover some of that. But they get destroyed because, you know, they just knocked all of those tombs down. So love to see them. I want to see every Pope image that there is, and there are so many and so many sculptures, especially as we get later. We're going to start having to cut down which ones we use, but for now, yeah, there's a lot that are gone that I'd really like to see. So that is just a couple questions today, and that's part 4 of our AMA. So join us tomorrow for the last little segment before our anniversary special.